preparing to live stream the meeting. Setting up the meeting. And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Stables Media. Taylor Phillips and Ed Smith, and we have special guest Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag. Jeff, welcome
fellas.
back. It's been over a year.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Now, let's first get started to all the people who are tuning in now. I want to go behind the scenes a little to start this off. We've been talking for 3 minutes already, and I thought I was on the air. I thought we already started the show. And then I realized that the show was not going out. It wasn't recorded. So I've already wasted a lot of effort trying to entertain people when the show wasn't on the air. But that's okay.
My bad.
That's DTP. You don't have to apologize whatsoever. But as you said, this is the first time I've been on a podcast. I've been broadcast in any such fashion on the airwaves, I believe, since the pandemic started, since my son was born about a year and 12 days ago. So I really think that you guys should be honored that I'm gracing your presence, that I have made my return on your show. And I hope you understand this monumentous occasion. And as I just was mentioning to you, when I thought we were on the air, but we were actually not recording or broadcasting out, as many people know who are listening, I used to have a Twitter handle, Jeff Moss DSR, and I was suspended numerous times for Ralph Sorello-like behavior. And then I was finally banned for good. Fortunately, I had a backup account, Detroit's DET Sports Rag, on Twitter, which had thousands and thousands of followers. I think 5,000 followers. I had 15,000 on the other one. And then because the banishment, as you know from former President Donald Trump, if you try to post under another name as yourself, that account gets banned too. So that Twitter account got banned, and then a third one got banned. So now I'm down to 700 followers. I'm having a real hard time gaining any traction on social media. So if you guys wouldn't mind, if I could take a minute to start the show before we get into the many topics that we have to address regarding the Detroit sports world and beyond. If I could read off some of my social media handles just so people know where to find me these days. Is that okay with you guys?
By all
Please
means,
do.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So on Twitter, I am HowAboutIt91. You can find me on Facebook, Jeffrey Moss and Jeff Moss DSR. If you need to find me there, we have the Detroit Sports Rag Facebook page that's still going, which is basically just a regurgitation of Taylor posting about when his shows are on. So if you want to follow that, we're over there on Facebook. If you can follow me over on Instagram at Jeff Moss DSR, on LinkedIn at Jeff Moss. Let me just check these off. Snapchat, JoffMess68. On Kick, JoffMess. Yeah.
68.
Yeah, 68. Kick, Voyeurism 1976. Cassidy, JNM 91. And let's see, I got a couple more. Oh, SLS. We like to watch 1972. And I think that's about it. So I appreciate if everyone can follow me on those different handles. I'm trying to reboot the website, get myself out there a little more. I can maybe one day get to a point where I have, back to maybe a couple thousand followers before I get banned again. Maybe I'll do a show once in a while, post some articles, but I appreciate you letting me rattle those off to start the show. And that's where people can find me these days.
Yeah. And hey, we're always here for you first. Definitely.
Where's Frank?
Frank, he's out due to some work at the regional semifinals. So he's
look. I don't know.
So he's not.
I don't know if you're Frank or not. but stop with the phone calls. Okay, now
Steve Langford.
I don't know. Listen, I don't know if you're Sauer's dad or not.
Right.
So what do you guys want to start off with?
Well, the Tigers' disastrous rebuild. We're going to go with those topics in order from your list. So, Jeff, before we get started, we want to remind everyone to download the all-new social sports mobile app, Vig It. Enter the referral code STABLES, capital S, lowercase, letter B in the middle, for Stables Media on the Vig It app when you sign up. Available on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Download the Vig It app and sign up with the referral code STABLES. And yes, it's a betting app, but except with Vig coins, like electronic play money on a mobile app, not real money. So it's kind of like it's kind of like betting, except you bet just like exhibition. So
it's kind of like betting without any of the fun,
without any of the money. It's still fun.
Without any
or the long term debilitating gambling problems, aka Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley syndrome.
Right. Yeah. So, Jeff, the Tigers' disastrous rebuild. That includes Casey Mize being promoted to the starting pitching rotation and the minor leagues as well. Jeff, just spill the beans all you can.
Well, DTP, ELS, ABC. I don't know if there's any other initials we need to address here. But what are we in? Year 17 of this rebuild? And, we were completely sold a bill of goods. I think, when did this start? When they traded Verlander and JD Martinez and Justin Upton and Justin Wilson and Alex Avila. By the way, I gave my Cassidy account out, right? That was JNM 91, right? I gave that one, I think. Okay. So look, we're in year 5 or 6 or whatever the hell this is. And if you even want to go back a little further than that, you remember the trade deadline a couple of years before that dump when they traded David Price and got Daniel Norris and Matthew Boyd, and they made some other moves. So we're going on many years of this rebuild here.
You can include Joaquin Soria's name as well.
Yeah. So
sold him.
Yeah. So you're going into many years of this rebuild, and where are we in the verge of opening day 2021? We're nowhere.
None.
Other than Candelario, they got almost absolutely nothing from trading all of those stars who have gone on to win World Series and to win Cy Young Awards and star players that they traded back a few years ago. Other than Candelario, they've got nothing basically. I checked today. I think Dewal Lugo is playing in the league that Jake Taylor was playing down in Mexico before he ended up back with the Cleveland Indians. This is an embarrassment of a rebuild. All they have prospect wise, really, that from all the trades they've made, all the finishing last in all the major leagues, all they have is the guys that basically you should have if any person off the street, any moron who has a Baseball America subscription, anyone could have drafted Casey Mize 1-1. Okay. Anyone could have taken Riley Green. You could have had, any imbecile draft Spencer Torkelson. So whatever prospects they have in the system, save maybe Skubal, who was, I think, a 9th round pick. And, obviously that was a good selection. They've got one guy that any jackass in the world couldn't have picked. They've got nobody else. This farm system, which, obviously is improved and is probably in the top 5 in baseball, isn't because of any genius moves by Al Avila or this organization. It's because they continually finish dead last in all of baseball or third to last. and they're going to get another good prospect in another couple months here. But once again, we are in 2021. I have read about 15 to 20 prognosticators of saying where the Detroit Tigers are going to finish this season. Every single person says that I've read on ESPN, FanGraph, any website you want to go to, has the Tigers finishing in dead last. And this is not exactly the greatest division in the world where all the teams are competing. Kansas City's terrible. Cleveland has traded Lindor and half their team. The only team that's really trying in the division and spending any money is the White Sox. And where are we? What is Al Avila done to put? And I shouldn't just hold him in criticize him. Are we allowed to swear on this show? I forget. Is this?
You just said
almost.
jackass, so
Okay,
right.
Well,
that's
listen.
allowed. Hell, damn, ass, and bitch. Just not the almost derogatory.
What? Like fuck? You can't say that. Chris Ilitch is a fucking idiot. Okay.
Right.
Well, listen. Chris Ilitch told us, this was going to be a combination of a rebuild with draft picks, and then when the time was right, they were going to spend money. How long do we have to wait for this fail child, this fail son, this Jordan Acker to put some money into this team? What is the payroll? Does Miguel Cabrera's contract more than the rest of the payroll combined? There was guys this offseason that they could have went and got and spent some money, just like, if you remember correctly, back in 2003 when the Tigers lost 119 games, and it was completely embarrassed. The next season, Mike Ilitch said, okay, we've been terrible since I took over ownership of this team from Tom Monahan. I'm going to finally spend some money. He goes and gets Pudge 1 year. He goes and gets Maglio. What's the plan? To overnight, when some of these prospects start to come to fruition, to just think you're just going to go buy 7 free agents one off season? This has got to be some sort of a gradual process. And this cheap son of a bitch, promised us that they would start spending money. There were some hidden gems in the free agent market this past offseason. You could have started signing some guys, spending some money. And, maybe next year when hopefully Mize works out, Torkelson's up, Skubal, Manning, you got some of these guys who are playing in the major leagues, and then you augment that with some talent that you gradually sign as free agents off season. It's not like 2016 when the Tigers got to the World Series that all of a sudden that previous year, there was a couple of years, went on.
Well, in 2016, they were what?
2006. Yeah. I'm sorry, 2006.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So, yeah, this payroll's a joke, and I don't want to hear any BS about the pandemic, because let me tell you something. The pandemic has been good for the Ilitch family. Okay, what did people do when they couldn't go to restaurants and they couldn't eat out? What were they doing for their family? They were buying cheap ass shitty pizza, like Little Caesars.
Yeah.
Little Caesars had a booming year last year. So don't tell me that this guy can't afford to spend money. This family's worth somewhere around $6 to $7 billion
with a B.
Okay. He got a huge tax break from his good buddy, Donald Trump, MAGA Chris Ilitch, who, by the way, is such a big fanboy of our former treasonous president that he flew in an airplane down to go, I think, see the Alabama LSU game so he could go meet Trump. That's the kind of guy. This guy who's locking up Black Lives Matter protesters, allowing the Detroit Police Department to use Little Caesars Arena, the bowels of Little Caesars Arena. I guess they were sending Black Lives, peaceful protesters into the Belfour training facility and locking them up in there. This son of a bitch, Chris Ilitch, doesn't spend any money this offseason. We have no guarantee that he's going to spend any money in the future. Who knows what this guy's going to do? All I know is there has been no owner in the history of professional sports who has a worse record. And you can even go to William Clay Ford Sr. across the street Nobody has a worse record as an owner of 2 professional franchises than Chris Ilitch. Think about since the old man died.
Mike Ilitch,
with the Tigers, the
Yep.
old man. Yes, thank you for clearing. I thought maybe you thought Abe Simpson I was talking about. No, Mike Ilitch. Please tell me who has a worse record than this guy. The Tigers and Red Wings, since Mike Ilitch has died, pretty much every year have either been the worst team in the league, the second or third worst team in the league. It's incredible, his resume. And is there any heat on this guy at all? Who is calling this guy out for what they did? They did nothing in the offseason, and nobody said a word. Why couldn't you go out and got a couple free agents? Like, you're just going to lose 10 years in a row, have one of the worst top 2-3 records in baseball, not make any quality trades of any of your established players for to supplement what you're getting in the draft, basically in the first round, because in the other rounds in the last few years, the Cody Clemens of the world, what's that kid Parker's name? You know I'm talking about, second round pick. Another
Cody.
Look it up.
Yeah.
Look at these guys. Anyone can draft in the first round. DTP and ELS, you could put your letters together in DTP ELS or ELS DTP or whatever you want to do. You two guys could knock your heads together, and you guys could draft Casey Mize. You guys could draft Spencer Torkelson.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's nothing. But where else? Where are the 4th or 5th round picks? Where is the talent offensively coming from? Look at these guys. Look at Daz Cameron. Look at Kristen Stewart. This guy didn't make the team. This awful team. Where are any hitting prospects? This team is an embarrassment. It's going to continue to be an embarrassment. And I'm telling you, I have no faith at all that Chris Ilitch is going to spend any money on this team. It's never, we already know it's never going to get back to the $170, $180 million that of his father. I'm not sure it's ever going to get back to the 100 and 110 million range with this schmuck. What do we have to hope for? That guy, that bench player from Michigan State who owns that mortgage company, what's his name? Ishbia or whatever the hell his name is. We got to hope now this guy buys the team before he has a debilitating stroke like Dan Gilbert.
Or somehow wait for Dan Gilbert's son to be well enough and old enough to buy the team himself.
Right. There you go.
I don't know what to tell you, but I am not. I see this team being terrible again. Look at that lineup. Look at that roster. Other than the days that Scooble or Mize pitched, do you have any interest in watching this team and listening to those bozos broadcast it on Bally's or wherever, or
Valley
Paris,
Sports Detroit,
or Circus dot whatever they're calling.
Yeah, it's the same
now.
On-air shills. Matt Shepard, Kurt Gibson, Jack Morris, Dan Petrie, and others.
Yeah,
along with
you're going to listen
Johnny
to that,
Kane, Trevor Thompson.
And watching.
Nobody knows who Johnny Kane is.
Well,
Mickey York.
We're probably broadcasting to about seven people right now, so I'm not exactly sure we should cast any aspersions. But next question.
Yep. Let's see.
I do find quite hilariously ironic that we know how bad and awful this team has been, is going to be for quite a number of years. Yet you have all these people clamoring about wanting to force the governor to expand enough seats for opening day. I was like, why? Why do you want to go downtown, waste 3-4 hours of your of your daily time to watch this shitty team? Why? If they were good, if they were contenders, I would get it, but not like this.
They're not going to be contenders that way. No. Right.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was just catching up on the DSRs over here. So, what else is going on, guys?
Yep. The Red Wings.
I gotta keep it quiet because Liam's sleeping.
Yep.
So
the Red Wings having issues as well.
Keep it a little quiet. Gotta keep it a little quiet.
I've got my eyes on the list right now. The Red Wings issues got Tepid Butler's house search, the Lions' new coach and GM, and Sheila Ford.
Yeah, we got to get into Tepid Butler's house search. We probably should do that. I think we should go sports, and then another topic, and then get back to sports, because my friend Tepid Butter, he is having a real hard time
Tepid
in this
Butter,
market.
okay.
Yeah,
Do
he's
tell.
having a real hard. He's having a real
Do
hard
tell.
time in this market, trying to find a house. He's moving back from Midland into the West Bloomfield, Farmington Hills area, and there's just not a lot of houses on the market, guys. I don't know if you've looked into this, but what happens is you find a house, and let's say it's listed for $340,000, right? So you think, well, if I offer $340,000 on this house, I'm going to get it. You would think that, right? ELS?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, what happens is these houses, there's so few houses on the market. It's such a seller's market that you have to go and offer $50,000 to $60,000 more than the house is being listed at. And then you still might not get it because you might run into a cash buyer. And
Wow.
so my friend Tepid, so my friend Tepid Butter, he makes an offer on a house, and these aren't even great houses he's looking at. I mean, he's doing the best he can here, but he's got a lot of student loans, and he's making offers on houses with baseboard heating, without forced air. One house he was looking at, the front was falling apart.
I know.
I'm a little upset about this.
Right. So, yeah, I know those houses are expensive. Yeah, I feel bad even from here in northern Michigan. I would feel bad for Tepid Butter. Butter.
Now the good thing is, the positive of this is I'm going to be putting my house on the market very shortly, and so I am going to probably have a financial windfall because I bought my house in 2007 during the Great Recession, and I got my house at a very good deal. And so I am going to, I'm going to come out smelling like a rose on this deal. But Tepid Butter, and I would, I don't want to sell him my house because that's just going to be, you don't want to really mix business and pleasure, because in the next 10 years, I'll be hearing about everything that's fallen apart in this house if I sell him the house. So, but I'm going to be putting my house on the market probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I just have some bathroom work to finish that I've been working on for about a year and a half. And once I do that, because, I have a nice house and it's fine. It had been fine for me and my wife. We could have stayed here forever, but with Liam, we need a little bigger of a house. We have a tri-level. There's only one bathroom on the upper level. So we need 2 bathrooms up there because I really don't want to share, you know what 2 and 3-year-olds do when they get potty trained, for the first time. They have no aim. They're pissing all over the left, to the right, all over the bowl, the seat. They don't have any control over their little dingling there. So I don't want to walk into, I'm a very neat freak. It would be the nice way to put it. I have serious OCD, and I need things clean. I won't even go into a public bathroom. Right? I mean, for number 1, yes, but I'm just talking about number 2. I won't even go in a public bathroom. So to have a little pipsqueak and having urine problems in the bathroom, I can't share a bathroom with him. I mean, I love the kid a lot, but that's just not going to happen. So we need 2 bathrooms upstairs. So that's what we're looking for. My wife wants a large walk-in closet. And so we have a few things we need. And, but I'm going to be in the same situation. Yeah, I'm going to sell my house for, a really nice price, and I'm going to do well. But now I'm going to have to go and find a house in this market. And I'm going to have to pay more than I want to pay. But I'm hoping this will be a house I live into, until, I'm in my 70s, which is getting not that far away. And then hopefully everything will work out. So that's the story. And I'm wishing Tepid Butter good luck with his house search. I hope he can find something soon at a reasonable price where he doesn't get outbid. And that's basically the DSR real estate update for the night.
All right, so we wish Tepid Butter good luck as well. So the Red Wings, they're having some issues as well with Dennis Chalowski. Ed and I explain the 7 Red Wings prospects that became busts last week on our program, including Brendan Smith, Timu Pokinen. Wow. Like,
yeah,
he was out. I was like, how did Timu Pokinen become a bust? And then I read it, and he got sent down to the minors. But that was when Ken Holland,
Tomas Yurko, that was another one.
Yeah. Wow.
Did I just get into a time machine and we're back into 2015? What happened here? What
Hey.
are we talking about?
Hey, good news. At least means the streak is still alive.
You mean that playoff streak that used to be alive? Yeah. It ended in 2017 finally.
Look, I've said this many times over the last 10 years. When I was the first person to warn people of Ken Holland's malpractice of running this team, going back to about 2011, 2012, I was writing articles about, the incompetence. If you remember the off season where they signed Michael Samuelson and Jordan Tutu, and I can't remember who else that year, but the year that they lost out on Ryan Suter and his cow and Zach Parisi, and how Ken Holland basically just completely squandered the last few years of Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg's prime, which is something that I don't think is really discussed enough in this town, because Ken Holland was treated with kid gloves for the championships that he basically walked into. But getting past that, what I always said was, look, the Red Wings have won 4 Stanley Cups in my lifetime. They don't owe me anything else as long as I live. All I wanted them was to be run competently and have a general manager who knew what he was doing. And at this point,
won 5.
Well, they could have won 5, but things happen, and they had a good run, and they could have had a longer run, even losing that Stanley Cup with all the injuries, with Hosa's wrist injury and Datsyuk and Lidstrom was hurt. One of them, I think, lost his groin during that series. But
they lost that cup in 2009.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. But forget that. So but they won 4 cups. Okay. I mean, compare that to some of the other teams in town. I mean, the Tigers have won 1 World Series in my lifetime. The Lions have, we don't have to go, we can talk about the Lions in a few minutes, but all I wanted was the team to be run competently. They win, they win. If they don't, they don't. And we have that with Steve Yzerman. He's doing the best he can with a franchise that was absolutely just totally decimated by the last few years of Ken Holland's incompetence. And it's just, look, this team, I was talking about this on the other night with my good friend Topher Ryan. Some people believe he might be Greg Brady, but I tend to think that he's not. Maybe he is. I don't know. But I was talking to him and Anthony Ciotti and some other people, the hockey insiders on the DSR, and we were talking about when would it be reasonable to think that the Red Wings could make the playoffs again? And we were talking the 2023-24 season, maybe 2022-23 at the earliest. I don't think so. This team is so far behind the 8 ball because of the things you mentioned, all of the absolute bust draft picks of Ken Holland in his last few years. Dennis Cholowski, who on a team as bad as the Red Wings, he's now, I think, in his age 22 year. I think he finally just hit puberty about 2 weeks ago. He's in Grand Rapids. He can't make this team. He can't crack that, stellar defensive unit that they have. Evgeny Svechnikov, who I think they've now waived twice and nobody has wanted him. The Spider, Patrick, excuse me. I just lost my train of thought there reading Slack, but Svechnikov has been a bust. Michael Rasmussen has been a bust. And a lot of these picks, these weren't picks that we're saying in hindsight 3 or 4 years later that these were bad selections and it was bad luck. When the Red Wings took Cholowski, he was a second or third round pick. They took him in the first round and they passed on taking Jacob Chikrin, and because they wanted to free up space. And instead of taking Jacob Chikrin, they freed up space by trading Pavel Datsyuk's contract to the Coyotes so they could sign Franz Nielsen, who the day that those moves happened, I said it was awful. This is not hindsight at all. I wrote an article the day that shit happened that this was a disaster. Chikrin was considered the best defenseman in that draft. He fell. They should have taken him. And now what is he doing? He's playing 24 minutes a night in Arizona. He's got 9 goals as a defenseman. He has more points, I believe, still than any Red Wing player as a defenseman. He's, I think, 21 or 22. He's a physical specimen. We're probably a few years away from him being a Norris Trophy candidate. Meanwhile, Dennis Cholowski can't even make the Red Wings taxi squad, who, by the way, Franz Nielsen, who they gave that contract to, is on that taxi squad. So you go through the picks, the Rasmussens, even the second round picks, Giovanni Smith, he's not giving him anything. Ken Holland put this team in such a horrible position over the last few years that it's going to take Yzerman 4 or 5 years just to dig out of it. They even at this point, I mean, every team in the league has a Dylan Larkin. Mantha is not setting the world on fire. I'm thinking that he might even get traded at the deadline, so to get some prospects or more draft picks, because this team is so far away from winning. By the time they're any good, Mantha will be 29 or 30, and guys like that, they don't age well anyway, as we all know. So I'm looking forward. Maybe next year we get to see Moritz Seider, who it appears by all indications is going to be a number 1 or number 2 defenseman in the NHL. He's over there dominating as a 19-year-old in a quote-unquote men's league in the SHL. He's doing things that have been unheard of for a under 20 player in that league. And the sky's the limit for him. And Raymond, maybe we'll see, and some of these other guys that Yzerman has taken, but Joe Celino, Joe Celino hasn't lit the world on fire. He's not considered a top prospect anymore. So all the it's just.
You mean Joe Veleno?
Yeah, Joe Veleno. What did I call him?
Zeleno.
No, I think I said Veleno. But anyway,
Okay.
Look, they're being run competently. They just this it's a joke. And the biggest slap in the face is the guy destroys our team for a decade, basically. I mean, he's with the trades that he made, the Cole trade, the Legwan trade, giving up prospects, giving up draft selections just to keep that stupid playoff streak alive. He completely obliterates our franchise. And what's his reward for that? Well, one, he gets elected to the Hall of Fame, which is an absolute fucking joke. There hasn't been a bigger joke than that guy getting into the Hall of Fame since they put William Clay Ford Sr. in the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. He has no business in there.
Oh,
and so he gets put in the Hall of Fame. And secondly, he gets a gig with the best player in hockey. He's the GM for Connor McDavid and Drexel and some other good players. And even on that team, they desperately we needed a goalie in the offseason. He does nothing about that. So, he gets rewarded basically for blowing up our organization. And he gets the best player, one of the best players I've ever seen in my life, actually. He's in the probably top 5 of players that I've ever even witnessed in the Lemieux and Fedorov discussion. And, hopefully, let me tell you something. If that guy wins a Stanley Cup in Edmonton, you might see me jumping from a building. I wouldn't even be able to handle that because he deserves nothing.
He deserves like Jeffrey Loria. It'll be like Jeffrey Loria winning a World Series with the Marlins after what he did to the Expos.
Well, if you want to say that, that's fine. But what's the next topic?
All right. So looking into it, we've got Red Wings, we got tepid Butters house search, we got the Tigers' disappointing rebuild out of the way. How about the delay in Matthew Zoller's Sites book?
Yeah, that's a good. See, now you're making good transitions. You're making good choices now because we're going from sports to an off topic to sports and that. So listen to this, and this is emblematic of a lot of issues with GoFundMe's. So I believe now it was 2 years ago. This guy, Matthew Solar Sites, or whatever his name is, I don't know how to pronounce it. He wrote a book with Alan Sepinwall about the Sopranos. He's written a lot of books about TV. And so the guy decides he's going to write a book about the TV show Deadwood. Now, I'm sure you guys know that I'm a big fan of Deadwood.
Definitely,
favorite TV show of all time. So he's going to run a GoFundMe, and I think he put $40 out. He says, if I can raise $100,000 and people give me $40 a pop, I'm going to write a book about Deadwood. So I'm like, look, nobody else is writing about the book about Deadwood. He says he can't get the financing from a publisher. So I'm like, okay, $40. I watch Flies Fuck for $40. I'll give him the guy the money. So I give him $40. He says the book is going to be out in November of 2020. So I'm thinking, great, the election will be over. Can read a nice book about Deadwood and Ian McShane and Seth Bullock and Dan Doherty and Johnny, all the great characters in Deadwood. Okay, great. So the guy suffers some personal tragedies in his life. In the meantime, his wife dies of cancer, his father passes away, and he's got to deal with all this stuff. So, okay, look, I understand. He told us the book was going to be out in November of 2020. We already paid for it. He raised, by the way, $177,000. He got $177,000 to write this book, which is no small chunk of change. So, okay, I give him a pass. Look, I had to take care of my father when he was dying of cancer, and I didn't call my clients and tell them, hey, sorry that your house is on fire and you got nowhere to live. Check back with me in 2 years. I didn't tell people that had their businesses flooded. Hey, look, I got some problems with the family. Maybe you'll get back into your business in 3. I did the work. I did the work from the hospital. I did the work from hospice. I did the work from chemo treatments because, look, I got to make a living. So, but okay, fine. I understand your wife died. I understand your father died. Okay. Well, now it's, I don't know, almost April, no book. And this guy's ace and bendering it all over the place on Twitter. Every night, he's up till 3, 4 in the morning. 100 tweets, 100 retweets. Like, it's insanity how many times this guy tweets a day. And it's about it's the craziest nonsense of all time. Talking about the soundtrack to movies from 1967. If you go read his Twitter feed, it's just garbage. It's not even important. He's retweeting people you don't want to even hear from. And I'm thinking, well, look, buddy, if you've got time to tweet 100 times in a day and retweet, shouldn't you be working on this book that I gave you $40 for 2 years ago that I still don't have? It's a little, aggravating. And I was asking him for updates on the book. When's the book coming out? Instead of saying, I said, how's the Deadwood book coming? Doesn't answer. How's the Deadwood book coming? Doesn't answer. Finally, he says to me, do I want a refund? Well, no, I don't want a refund. I want the fucking book. I want the book. And all you do is give me an answer and say, oh, well, it's coming out in November of 2021, or it's still on schedule. First, he jumps right to the thing about the refund, which and I'm saying, there's a lot of abuses. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but these people running GoFundMes, I'm out there. I see people. Okay, they have a house fire, right? Now, if you have a house fire and you have insurance, the insurance is going to pay for your housing. It's going to pay to rebuild. It's going to pay for your contents. The reason you buy insurance is to make you whole. You understand that concept, right, guys?
Right.
Yeah, you're still there. Okay, I'm glad you're still there. So what these people do, they have a fire, and then their neighbor says, oh, these people had a fire, and they run a GoFundMe. And they raise $50,000, $60,000 to, when they've got insurance. And it's like, well, why are you giving someone money on a GoFundMe when they're fully insured? I see this all the time. I saw one case, I'm not going to mention it. It's kind of a famous case. It was on the news. I'm not going to give all the particulars, but let's just say someone caused this fire to happen. Not only are these people fully insured, they had a great lawsuit with the people who caused this fire to happen. I don't want to get into the details because if I tip it off, you'll know what the situation is. So now these people have full insurance. They're going to go after the insurance company of who wronged them. And then they got a GoFundMe. I mean, what is that? And who are these morons who are giving people who are fully insured money? It's the same dopes who gave Ace Assbender, 6 figures because he's tired? And he says, oh, I can't. This is another guy, Assbender. This guy's out there saying, I can't write. I can't blog. Now, listen, you guys blog. You know what blogging's like. It's not exactly like building the pyramids or digging a trench. I mean, blogging, you could do it you don't have to get out of bed. You don't even have to put your pajamas on. Take them off, put them on, whatever. You can do it anywhere. You do it from your kitchen table. Blogging is not that difficult. This guy couldn't be bothered to blog, but he raises $100,000 and then he's tweeting out another guy, tweeting out 100 times a day. He tweets out more verbiage than his blog would be. And then 2 months later, he's back writing his blog. I mean, there's a lot of phony, nonsense going on regarding GoFundMes. And I just feel like I'm being taken advantage of. I paid for this book. Like I said, this is a weird character anyway, this guy. Listen to this one, guys. So this guy was married, I don't know, about 15, 20 years ago, right?
Right.
His first wife dies, right? Okay, that's a sad story. But listen to this. Yeah. He goes and marries her sister.
Oh.
Now,
okay, I've heard of keeping it in the family. But
that's some weird Hunter Biden shit right there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah. The guy marries his sister, the dead sister. And now she's gone. Now, I mean, he's had a lot of heartache. I mean, it's a sad situation. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. You marry one sister and she passes away, and then you marry another sister and then she passes away. And I feel for the guy, and his dad passes away, and I think his mother's in a facility. So yeah, it's not a good situation. But look, I paid $40 for this book, and I want to read about Martha Bullock and Sal Starr and Merrick and Nuttall and Farnham and Calamity Jane and I want to read about these people, and I want my book. So look, I'm hoping to get that book soon. But if the guy keeps tweeting 100 times a night, I should read some of these tweets. You wouldn't even believe what this guy's, droning on about. Well, you guys can talk among yourself. I'll look them up here.
Right. So, Ed, what are your thoughts?
And what are your thoughts about this book?
Yeah, my thoughts were, I would say, though, that, I think you're definitely got a point of where, if you're going to do all this time, spending all this time doing these random tweeting, shouldn't you be just using all this time, this extracurricular activity towards working on the book itself?
That's what I'm saying.
Even if you're not going to publish it on time, you at least let the people know, hey, there's going to be a little bit of a delay here. personal issues, pandemic, whatever, but I'm still at work here. I'm not dicking around on Twitter all day and night doing essentially nothing. That speaks really of how, I guess, what he just wants extra money for himself, or he thinks that.
No, I think he's psychotic, is what I think. But
Yeah, I was going to go that route as well.
It just rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah,
like I said the other day on the DSR. Look, some guy comes to you and says, "I want to borrow $500," right? And he's down on his luck. And look, okay, that can happen to anybody. They get down on their luck. They want to borrow $500. You give them the $500, and then 6 months later, they still haven't paid you back. And you go on Facebook and you see they're in Cancun on the beach.
Yeah,
this is how
that's when you can tell you get duped.
Right.
Yeah.
And you feel like a schmuck. You feel like you're just you're a mark. And that's how I feel. So that's what I wanted to say about, and I think he's blocked me finally. I was just trying to find his tweets and I can't get them because he blocked me.
Like a coward.
He reached his breaking point.
All I asked him was a simple question. When's the book coming? I even asked him I asked him what the update was. I'm just getting a text message from my wife telling me I'm being too loud.
Right.
Yeah,
so.
I've been blocked. It's official. So I can't read off any of the tweets about Miller and Mrs. McCabe's soundtrack for you.
Yeah, you got how about it yourself.
If you could privately message us that Twitter handle, we can do a little undercover work. No retweets, no likes, just skimming over what the hell he's up.
Listen,
he's been up to.
I don't want to be complicit if somehow something happens and this guy gets chloroformed. I'm gonna just keep that between ourselves.
We could send you screenshots.
Okay. Well, as long as his skin's not hanging from my wall. So
don't worry, you'll have a tight alibi no matter what.
Okay. All right. So what's the next topic? Should we talk about the Lions?
Yep, the Lions. Yes, they are next. Let's get them off
crap out the way.
Our chests right now. Fire up that flamethrower, Jeff. That rocket launcher. So, Jeff, the Lions hired a once homophobic guy, Dan Campbell, who previously worked as an assistant coach for the New Orleans Saints, and now he's a head coach for the Detroit Lions. They trade Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff and stuff like that. They let their star wide receivers Marvin Jones Jr. and Kenny Galladay walk. They signed as free agents with other teams, Kenny Galladay to the New York Giants, and this and that. Jeff, you've got all the analogy. Just go ahead and let it rip.
Well, I need to give you guys an update here because I just want to tell you how far above and beyond I'm going on this podcast tonight. I just literally got thrown out of my house. My wife is telling me that I'm keeping. She's telling me I'm keeping Liam awake, and that I have to leave the house and go in my car and finish this. So I hope. Can you hear me still?
That's okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'm now. Yeah. See, this is a perfect segue into why I need a bigger house, because I can't even do the podcast because Liam hears my voice, and we have about a 2,300 square foot house, but the way it's built, it's a tri-level. No matter where I go in that house, if I'm on the phone, you can hear me.
Yeah,
so
I think the car is better.
Yeah, I'm getting these messages from my wife in all caps. Let's see here. Okay, seriously, you are too loud. Now that wasn't in all caps. That was the first one she sent. Then I get one in all caps. I have to go to fucking bed. Go to your car. This is ridiculous. So I'm in my car, going to finish this show with you guys because I told you I would do the full hour, as Larry King used to say. Jeff Moss on for the full hour.
Plus some.
I'm in my car.
Plus some. Hey, we can work overtime.
Yeah.
Just get all those topics done anyway. No matter how long it takes.
You're going to pay for my divorce attorney, dear DTP? Oh, you know what? We need to get into that too. Before we get into the Lions, because I think the Lions should be the last topic.
Right.
This is something I mentioned on Facebook. Do you think, maybe I should ask ELS this question, and then you can chime in, DTP. Sure. ELS.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you stayed awake for this whole entire podcast. It's very professional of you. I'm glad I'm not boring you and that you're not pulling a Baba Booey. And I appreciate all of your hard work here. But my question for you is this. Do you think it is a coincidence that Ruby Tuesdays completely tanked, went under? The two locations by me, we had one over at 12 Mile in Orchard Lake, one over at 12 Mile in Halstead, out of business. I'm not sure if the whole chain has gone under, but do you think it's a coincidence that this place started to take water the minute DTP left the Cadillac, Michigan location?
Things that are often seen as coincidences aren't always the case. Now, before I get into that, Taylor, what was your spot? What was your position?
It was a salad bar attendant.
See, that's what happened. Once Taylor left, the quality of the salad bars just went completely down.
I got let go, actually.
Well, still, once they made a huge mistake letting you go, because once that happened,
it's obviously a huge mistake. Because let me tell you something. I don't know if there's a correlation between the salad bar in Cadillac and the one in Farmington Hills, but the one down here, the salad was brown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the dressings, you'd go get the ladle for the dressings, and the slob before you would have poured the creamy ranch all over the place. It was gross looking. It didn't look aesthetically pleasing. It didn't look sanitary, to be quite honest.
Nope.
And I don't care. Some say, okay, we had a global pandemic, nearly 600,000 dead, restaurants shut down. Some people are blaming that on Ruby Tuesday's demise. I'm going back to Taylor Phillips, and they made a mistake. They got rid of him. And I said it at the time. This is not 2020 hindsight. You know this, DTP. When that happened, I was on Facebook defending you, said this was ridiculous. And maybe it's just karma. Maybe we can just leave it at that. We can all agree karma. Well, is that location, by the way, DTP, the location they used to be at, is that one closed now?
Cadillac? No, it's not closed. The reason I got out of honesty, the reason I got fired, I threw temper tantrums at the diners because the customers were just screwing up the salad bar one night on my last night when I was working a double shift. They were putting all the tongs in the wrong dishes and just contaminating the entire damn thing.
Well, I see that. I was seeing that in Farmington Hills. Like I just said, did I just mention that? I didn't even know that. But
customers in Cadillac and West Michigan, Big Rapids, Grand Rapids, everywhere are a bunch of pigs.
Well, I'm telling you, I would see the Italian dressing ladle in the French dressing bucket.
No.
It's happened here too before in Cadillac.
I can't blame you for losing it. I can't blame it.
Thank you. Thanks,
the bacon
Jeff.
bits. The bacon bits. Someone decides to drop some croutons in the bacon bits. Look, who? Let me tell you. You show me the person.
Still contamination.
Job, who's not going to get set off by that? Who is not going to get set off when you got perfectly good bacon bits and someone throws in the croutons in there?
Yeah.
Look.
Or accidentally dumps them into their by tipping the plate over.
Diet. I'm on a no carb diet. Okay, right now. I can't bacon bits are fine. They might not be great for my cholesterol, but I can eat all the bacon bits I want. But I can't have one crouton. So if some schmohawk decides to put the croutons in the bacon bit bucket, that's causing me a bad day. So I'm not going to blame anyone for getting aggravated with that. So and I think that's enough said about the Ruby Tuesdays.
The managers, they don't even know what the hell's going on. They don't. And they just sent me home and then they let me go by phone.
Yeah. Well, look, you're doing good. You got the podcast.
Thanks.
You got the famous Jeff Mist.
Yeah.
Jeff Mess on here. And we're having a good time. We're going in almost an hour on this show. Look, I might not have a place to sleep tonight. I might have to drive up to Bain. You got you got a sofa I can crash on there?
Bain. I've never heard of a city called Bain. Was it
McBain?
McBain, yeah.
McBain, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Gary, I was thinking of Bain. There used to be a jockey at DRC named Gary Bain. And that's what I was thinking. I apologize.
Right.
I should know McBain, because I don't know if everyone knows here on
McBain's
this
a small
show,
town,
which is very close to where I got Marlowe, because you found Marlowe for me.
Yeah,
My dog.
In Manton, almost
exactly.
6 full years ago in 2015.
Exactly. So,
Back
all right,
in
let's
August.
get on the Lions, because,
Please do. Yeah.
look, I don't think, my wife will take me to the cleaners if we get divorced. There's just a lot of shit you don't want to know about that she probably could unearth, and
Right. No. Right. That's okay. Let's just get the Lions.
Let's get to the Lions.
Launch that rocket launcher, will you?
Well, all right. So first, I want to say something about ownership, because I was willing to give Sheila Ford the benefit of the doubt. I actually like Sheila Ford. You got, with the ownership in Detroit, you got Sheila Ford, right? Okay. Seems like a decent person. She seems pretty woke. She's giving to Democratic candidates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she, unlike her mother, who is a big Republican. And her brother with the Ford Motor Company, he's giving money to Republicans. But Sheila Ford seems like a nice, lib. She she understands the Black Lives Matter movement. She when all that went down with George Floyd, she had her college friend Harry Edwards, who's a African American sociologist, come on Zoom and speak to the team. She said she'd have no problem with Colin Kaepernick in the team. I think she said all the right things. She's done a lot of right things. And when you juxtapose that with Tom New Jim Crow Gores, and how he is charging exorbitant rates for prisoners in private prisons to make phone calls. Just a bad guy, Tom Gores. And we already talked about Chris Ilitch and all the money he gives to Republicans, and how he's an absolute MAGA jackass himself. So, I like Sheila Ford. I like her politics. I just give her the benefit of the doubt. She can't be worse than her father, can't be worse than her mother. And, she gets ownership from the mother after last season, it seems the mother decided to keep Patricia and Quinn. And I don't know if she could have done anything about that or not, but that's water, under the bridge at this point. She sees how bad the Lions are this year, and she does the right thing. She fires Quinn and she fires Patricia. Okay. Now, I would have liked to have that happen a lot sooner, considering, the alleged rape charges against Patricia, not to mention what an awful coach he was. He should have been gone last year, both of them. But okay, whatever. She does the right thing this year. Now,
better late than never.
Better late than never, exactly. And a lot quicker than her father would have done. And the mother. So okay, I give her the benefit of the doubt.
Father and mother combined.
A lot of people giving me crap about giving her the benefit of the doubt. I'm getting a lot of Moss says Sheila quote unquote gets it on the website. I'm taking a lot of heat, and I'm defending her. But okay, whatever. So now we go into this process. We got to get a new GM and we got to get a new head coach, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Now this team has been absolutely mismanaged for 7 decades. Nobody's going to give us an argument about that, correct?
Correct.
Unfortunately.
And why? They've never really, until they hired Quinn, they never really had a general manager that anybody else in the world would have been interested. And, Quinn obviously was terrible, and he, was an abomination, and it didn't work out. But at least you could say the guy came from an organization with some sort of pedigree where hiring him wasn't the most outlandish thing in the world. But before that, you had William Clay Ford Sr.'s drinking buddy, Russ Thomas for years. And then you had his accountant, Chuck Schmidt for years. And then you had his son's attorney, Tom Lewan, in that, as a president. And then they bring in Matt Millen, who's out of the TV and had no experience in the front office. And then when they get rid of him, instead of doing an all points bulletin search for a general manager, They hire Martin Mayhew, who's in the building. They don't even search for anyone after going, losing every game, going 0-16 one season, having just the one of the worst. I mean, as bad as they've been, the Millionaire era was even 20 times worse than anything we had seen before that. And instead of going out, doing the right thing, interviewing all the best candidates, they knock on Martin Mayhew's door and they give him the job because he was the closest person there. And the only reason they didn't violate the Rooney Rule by only interviewing one person is, luckily enough, Martin Mayhew was an African American. So they finally hire Quinn. It doesn't work out. Okay. What have they never really had in the history of the Ford ownership since William Clay Ford Sr. took over sole control of that team the day Kennedy was shot in 1963? What have they never had? They never had an infrastructure. Okay. When Mike Ilitch bought the Detroit Red Wings back in the early 80s, one of the first things he did was he went out and got Jimmy Devellano. Okay. And Jimmy Devellano was a member of the New York Islanders organization who were just in the middle of winning 4 Stanley Cups in a row. They bring him in and they basically let him run the franchise until he steps down and Bowman and Holland, run it. And there was some infrastructure. And there's, and as bad a person as Devellano is, and I don't want to get into some of his peccadillos, but as bad as a guy he is, okay, they had some sort of buffer between ownership for many years and the front office. He was running things. Okay. So obviously, most successful organizations, you need a guy at the top, not the general manager, but someone as like the president of the team, someone who, can hire the general manager and knows about the sport that you're, the owner in. Okay. My idea was go get an Ozzie Newsome type. Go get some guy who's 65 to 70 years old, who doesn't want to be a GM anymore, but has had success in the past. Okay. Go hire that guy to run the franchise. He's the buffer between Sheila Ford and the organization. That person goes out, he hires a GM, the GM hires a coach. This is not rocket science, okay? This is how organizations are built. That's how the infrastructure is implemented all over successful organizations. Now, what do the Lions do? The first thing they do is, I don't know, I guess Sheila was watching the Lions against the Panthers one Sunday, and they get embarrassed by some, I think, XFL quarterback or wherever the hell this guy came from. And Chris Spielman's on the broadcast that day doing the game. Oh, Chris Spielman. Well, let's hire him as an advisor. This knucklehead. This moron. Okay?
Right.
So they hire him. Okay? Now, right away, that's not great. Okay, but okay, let's see what happens. Then they put Rod Wood in charge of hiring the new head coach before they hire a general manager. Okay? Let's get a head coach and not let the general manager in on this discussion, which is absolutely mind-boggling. It makes no fucking sense whatsoever. So now Rod Wood, please tell me who Rod Wood even is. Nobody, go on the internet. What is this guy's background other than being, once again, a family friend of the Fords? Just like Tom Luan, just like Chuck Schmidt, just like Russ Thomas. Who is this guy? I sent my 2 best investigators out on the case to find out what this gentleman's history is. Jason Patek, and you might know him as Infield Fly Rule Dot. Okay, these guys are internet sleuths. Okay, these guys are on the job. They'll find anything out about you. They're like private detectives. They'll go on the internet and they can find. Listen, if you had a speeding ticket, ELS back in 1997, I don't even know if you were a legal driver then. They would find it. Okay, they find everything. They can't find a damn thing about this Rod Wood. I don't know. He's a curator at Greenfield Village. Who is this guy? This guy is out there interviewing head coaches. Who is Rod Wood? What is his experience?
He's not a football guy. Frank Badger pointed it out, and those were his own words too. Rod Wood, he said, quote unquote, "I'm not a football guy."
So, and this is the guy they've got outgoing hiring.
Unquote.
I don't understand this. You hire a general manager, and then you let that general manager hire a head coach. The Lions. I mean, now look, when you've had all the success that this team's had over the last 65, 70 years, you can understand why they think that they have some new way to reinvent the wheel. They haven't won a playoff game since 1991. Were you even alive, DTP? How old were you?
Oh, when was that again?
91. Quick
91.
math. Let's go. How old were you?
7 years old.
You were 7 years. Do you remember that game?
Just around. Oh yeah, 19. Yeah, I remember watching that game just for fun. The Lions won. I think they beat the Cowboys that game.
Yeah. You think you don't even know for sure. That's how long ago it was. Yeah, it was the Cowboys. They haven't won a division since I think 94.
That was easy.
I mean, by the way,
that was too easy.
One playoff win. If you figure out one playoff win in 64 years, the chances of that happening are in the multi-millions to one. I mean, you could hire your garbage man. Nobody could do worse than that to run this team. Anybody could run this team, okay, and have that kind of success. So they decide, we're going to do this. So they go out. Now, okay, they hire Brad Holmes. Now, I didn't have a huge problem with Brad Holmes. I didn't have a massive issue with that. Okay, the guy's got experience. I liked hiring a younger guy instead of a retread. But then you give him a 5-year deal, and then you go and hire Man Campbell as a head coach. Now, keep in mind, this guy who is, I don't know, he's coaching the tight ends at New Orleans. There's nobody else in the NFL looking at this guy. Nobody else is going to hire Man Campbell to be the head coach of their team. There is no market. This is exactly the opposite of the tepid butter issue that we discussed before. This is not a market where this guy has got to call any shots whatsoever. Nobody wants him. Okay?
Case in point.
Nobody.
See the comparison, guys?
So nobody wants him. They go out and give this guy a 6-year contract. They give him one more year than the GM. And
6 freaking years.
We know by the timing that Holmes really had no say over this. This was Rod Wood and Chris Spielman deciding to hire this guy, who, by the way,
and give him a 6-year contract.
Another Neanderthal. This guy, I mean, they could have gone and exhumed the body of Woody Hayes if they wanted this philosophy of running the ball to set up the pass. We want good guys. We don't want talent. I mean, listen to this shit this guy comes out of this guy's mouth. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. Okay. And the other thing about this guy is the one thing that the Lions could not do was hire a buffoon. Okay. They needed a guy who maybe no nonsense, who's got some gravitas, who's got some respect around the league. They hire this guy who looks like the embodiment of PC Principal from South Park, okay? And I did some research tonight. You're not going to believe this. PC Principal from South Park and Man Campbell.
You talking about Dan Campbell? Yeah, Dan Campbell.
Yeah, the two of them, both of them went to Texas A&M. I think they're the same freaking person.
My goodness.
Go look it up on South Park Wikipedia. PC Principal went to Texas A&M. Look it up. I'm not lying to you, folks. Look it up. That guy went to Texas A&M. Man Campbell went to Texas A&M. I'm telling you, they're the same moron. Okay. God. This philosophy going back to 1967. 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and we don't want talent. We want guys who are muckers and grinders. I mean, are you kidding me? In 2021, when everyone's flinging the ball all over the place, throwing 60. I mean, they're going to bring in this guy who in his first press conference can't even get away without making him an absolute dipshit of himself. where he's talking about guys biting knees. And then when people in the national media start discussing what a loon this guy is, when Levitard and Pardon the Interruption and Around the Horn and all these shows are mocking him and laughing at Detroit again, what does he say? Well, that was just for the Detroit fans. Well, does this guy not know modern technology? Does he not know this is broadcast everywhere? Has he ever heard of Twitter? Has he ever heard of social media? This was just for people in Detroit? You dumbass. I mean, you could not hire another buffoon. The franchise that had Darryl Rogers saying, what's it take to get fired around here? They have the big buck with Wayne Fonz and his buffoonery and his, him getting pulled over in his car and then finding cocaine and blaming his son and then Bobby Ross, but I don't coach that. All of these guys, Morningweg, who sounded like an absolute fool at every press conference he gave, to Marinelli hiring his son-in-law to be the coach.
Ryuchi as well.
Opening up that to Rob Parker being able to mock him for hiring a son-in-law who couldn't coach defense. I mean, you go on and on up into Patricia. You could not hire a guy without a little respect. And they hire this joke. They hire this goof. Now, maybe you could get away with that, DTP and ELS, if you fired your coach and the team was on the precipice of winning, that you needed someone to get you over the top. This team was going to win 9 or 10 games next year. Maybe you could hire a guy like this, okay, and maybe catch lightning in a bottle or hope to do so. You cannot hire a jackass like this when even in a 17-game season, your max of wins is probably going to be 2 or 3. You're going to go through next year with this guy showing up at press conferences, with his double wide stance, looking like he's about to, run the 100-yard dash, and with his biting kneecaps and with all of his soliloquies about, leather helmets and that kind of game. That's what you're going to give to us. This team is as bad as they've been, in my opinion, talent-wise, and I don't know how many years. Because at least when they were 0-16, you had Calvin. You had Calvin coming. You had the number 1 pick coming in Stafford. So you had at least, something to hold your hat on. What do you have with this team? You've got nothing. The defense is atrocious. Who are the wide receivers going to be this year? I guess they're going to draft one. But these guys, they just signed off the clearance rack at Love's Furniture. And by the way, if you need a mattress, go to Mattress King. Ask for my friend Josh Krieger. I'm not getting paid for that plug, but good friend of mine. If you need a mattress, queen size, king size, Posturepedic, whatever you need, Mattress King. They got a location in Lapeer. Got some other locations. Ask for Josh Krieger. But forget that. What they went and traded.
There's a good extra sponsor there.
They traded Stafford, okay, for Jared Goff. Okay. Now let's break that down for a second. And now, and this organization somehow thinks that Jared Goff is going to be some potential answer. The Lions, the Rams traded for a guy who's 33 years old with a broken back because they thought he had a better chance of taking them to the Super Bowl than Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff had the benefit of Sean McVay talking in his ear, basically reading defenses, telling him what to do. He had a genius in Los Angeles, basically giving him all the information he needed. And he still failed. And because he failed, they had to trade for a 33-year-old guy who's never won a playoff game, who has, issues with his health. That's how desperate they were to get rid of Jared Goff. So now Jared Goff comes to Detroit. Doesn't have Kenny Galladay, doesn't have Marvin Jones. I don't know who these wide receivers he's got. I don't even know.
Damian Raleigh from the.
Yeah, I knew you guys would know, but nobody knows who these guys are. Okay, and he's got, instead of Sean McVay telling him what to do, now
He's got Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn, the coach of the Chargers last year, who on multiple occasions, with the clock running out at halftime, is calling running plays, where on 2 different occasions, he calls running plays when there's no timeouts, the clock running out, and can't even get a field goal off because they don't score a touchdown. This is the fool he's got now. So not only is Goff not in that situation with the Rams with plenty of offensive talent, without Sean McVay, now he's here. And this team, like I said, so far away from competing, and you give the guy a 6-year contract. This is going to be absolute hijinks and hilarity. I cannot wait to this guy's press conferences. I mean, do you see 2 or 3 wins on that schedule with this malarkey?
I'm somehow looking at
on that roster.
I'm somehow seeing less, to be honest with you.
Less than 2 or 3 wins, I'd say
yes.
So.
I mean, I don't
if
know
they
what
were to
the
reach that
over-under
mark,
is on that team, but I'm betting a farm on the under on this team. I mean, it is, it is crazy. I did forget one account earlier, one of my handles. I did forget one. I think I got most of them.
That was Jeff Moss 91.
I did forget one. Yeah, I forgot one though. I forgot my Parlor account, and that's Mike Sullivan golfer at Parlor. So if you want to follow me on Parlor, it's Mike Sullivan golfer. So
okay.
I apologize.
Gotcha.
I apologize for that one. So I mean, that's my take on the Lions this offseason. I mean, I don't know how anyone over the age of 30 can even root for this team anymore. They give this guy a 6-year contract. I know you can say, well, what's that even mean? They could fire him at any time. But the fact that you give your head coach 1 year longer than your general manager, and this guy wasn't even, like I said, nobody was after this guy. Nobody was seeking him. There was no bidding war for Dan Campbell. I mean, even in his opening press conference, he made a joke that, maybe they thought I was Matt Campbell, which would have made a little sense. This guy, I mean, I would say I feel bad for Lions fans that this happened, but if you're still a Lion fan, you're fucking pathetic, and you don't deserve my sympathy at all. So, same old Lions. I like Sheila Ford for politics. I like what she's doing a little, but bringing this coach in at this time, when you had the boss, Buffalo's offensive coordinator was out there. Eric Bieniemy. Now I know Eric Bieniemy had some issues. It probably would have been hard to bring in Eric Bieniemy after firing Matt Patricia, who we find out a few months after he's hired that he might have raped a woman violently in a hotel room in Texas back on spring break when he was in college. Bieniemy had a lot of issues. There's a lot of things in his background back in Colorado that weren't good. So it might have been hard to bring him in. But, I mean, I'm just absolutely perplexed. And if you want to Google Dan Le Batard and Dan Campbell, you can find a podcast about him just absolutely raking him over the coals and mocking his buffoonery when he was the interim coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is just, I mean, you couldn't believe it. You finally thought that, I mean, at least I finally thought, I know a lot of people didn't. I finally thought they were going to do the competent thing. I thought they would hire someone, like I said, to oversee the organization, a elder statesman, hire a GM, hire a head coach. And once again, they hire another TV commentator from Fox who has no experience, who doesn't know what he's doing, who's old school mentality. And they bring in, basically a similar ethos in their head coach when the league has, passed that by about 15 years ago. So good luck if you're a Lions fan. Maybe in 2074 or something, maybe 2068, maybe you'll win a playoff game.
Sometime around there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
And I've told my son many times, he's not to root for the Lions. I told family members If they bought him any Lions gear, it was going to go in a wood chipper. He is not allowed to root for the Lions. He can do whatever he wants. I don't care what this kid does in life. He can choose his own path. He can do whatever he wants. But the one thing he can't do, I am not going to allow him to waste his life like I wasted mine for the first, I don't know, whenever Barry retired. So that was like 2000, the first 28 years of my life on this godforsaken franchise. Not going to let him do it. So I've spoken my piece. We've gone on for an hour and 23 minutes. I'm sitting in my car in the garage, staring at a ladder and some Husky contractor cleanup bags. And unless you guys got any other questions for me, I'm probably going to go get in the house and get yelled at by my wife.
Well, we got two other things to
real
quick,
man,
yeah.
Because look,
yeah,
I don't,
the
there's
FanDuel
COVID
deal
out
to
there.
line your
I don't want
friends'
to be at the
coffers.
Holiday Inn Express tonight. I got the first vaccine. I get the second on April 13th. Maybe after that, I'll be more willing.
April 13th. That's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, DTP. But I
Thanks.
wish you happy. I don't really wish people happy birthdays. I really think birthdays are stupid once you're over the age of 3.
Let's just get the Pistons out of the way. Out of the way.
Hold on a second. I'm getting the second vaccine on April 13th. After that, 2 weeks after that, she wants to kick me out of the house, and I got to stay at a Holiday Inn Express or a Hampton Inn over here on Orchard Lake and Northwestern. I'll do it. But really tonight, I got no place to go. I don't really want to sleep in this car. So we got what's to talk about the Pistons? I mean, come on.
Right.
There's nothing to say about
they finally got rid of Blake Griffin. Yeah, they finally got rid of Blake Griffin, but Tom Gores, like you mentioned before, just an awful human being. Very bad person, scamming money in this telecom prison system. We had a conversation with Bianca Tylek,
yes, we did,
like a couple months ago. And and Jeff, I can email you the link to our episode with special guest Bianca Tylek of Worth Rises. She can definitely give you more insight.
I'm familiar with her work. And I know what's going on with Tom Gores. But look, unless the Pistons hit on they hit on a lottery pick and they get Jalen Suggs, who turns out to be a superstar, or Mobley, or whoever it is, this team is not watchable. They can make 50,000 more trades. I know I've been told the GM of the team is got a good family. He's a good family man. That's
Troy
nice
Weaver.
And fine. Troy Weaver. I've been told he's got a good family. I understand that, but I just can't care until they get if they get someone who's a stud. I'm talking about, the first overall pick. This guy comes in from day one, and he's like a Donovan Mitchell who they passed on. He's somewhere of that caliber where there's something to watch. There's some reason though. I'm sorry. I don't care how good Bay is. He might be good. If this team gets good and they can get a couple other, first overall picks, top 3 picks, he's going to be a nice chip. But I can't watch this team to watch that guy. I just can't watch this. I just don't care. I don't care about this team. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm a bandwagon Pistons fan. I've said it many times. They move to Las Vegas tomorrow, I really wouldn't care. Unless they're good, I'm not going to follow the Pistons.
They're not good.
Like I said, if they get a great player in the draft, I mean, it finally looks like they're going to. They figured out tank. They figured it out. I don't know how. I mean, they made all these trades trying to be competitive, and after all that, they're still. I think they have the second worst record or third worst record in the NBA. I know they're fighting out with Houston for that second or third. Hopefully, they get some lottery luck this year. Hopefully, they get one of the top 2 or 3 guys. Cade Kavanaugh Cunningham, or Mobley or Suggs, and the guy they get turns out to be a stud, to be a next level type of guy, and then I'll watch them. But until then, I got nothing to say about the Pistons.
All right. So
anything else in this press conference before I get out of here?
Frank Wagner had a couple questions. Number one, how much Lenny?
I don't know if it's Frank or not.
Frank Wagner. All right. But Frank Wagner asked, number one, how much leniency will Steve Eisenman have if he brings Jeff Blashill or Trashill back? And number two, do you believe Juwan Howard should be paid more than Jim Harbaugh, regardless of revenue brought in by the sport they coach?
Well, that second question's I don't know if you're frank, but enough with the questions. No more questions. I don't even care about that. Harbaugh should have been gone, but that's a whole topic we're not getting into today. That guy is an embarrassment. He's been a bust. He's a joke.
They give him an extension.
The guy is out there looking for
Fort Manuel
jobs
gets
in
an
the
extension
NFL.
too.
They bring him back, whatever. Who cares? Juwan Howard did a great job. I have high hopes for him. Whatever. I couldn't care
Me too.
less what these guys get paid. The only thing I care about who gets paid is the guys who are on the court and the guys on the field are the guys who need to get paid. And hopefully, after what happened at the Supreme Court today, maybe that'll happen sooner rather than later. But I couldn't care less how much Juwan Howard makes or Jim Harbaugh. They've made tons of money in the NFL and the NBA. They made tons of money as coaches of those teams. The guys who I want to see get paid are Isaiah Livers and the players on the court and the field. So that's all I got to say about that. I think part of the reason Yzerman has kept Blashill is he knows this team's going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want them to win. He wants them to do as good as he can in the lottery, get another top, hopefully 2 or 3 pick. I got to believe that Blashill's gone after this year, but I just can't really get riled up one way or another when this team is still 3-4 years away from contending. Obviously, when this team is good, Blashill's not going to be here, whether that's tomorrow or the summer when he's gone. I really don't care. I don't think Yzerman cares too much. I would assume maybe at some point that he goes back and gets his former left winger Gerard Gallant, brings him in here. I would think that's a logical move. But, you can put all the lipstick on a pig you want. You could bring Bowman out of retirement and, get him away from his train set. And, you can bring him back. This team isn't going anywhere. They don't have enough talent. Like I said before, they've been decimated. So whether Trash Hill is here or not, it's really irrelevant. I would think he's gone in this offseason, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. And that's about all I got to say, guys. I think I got to go because
I
think my wife's on the phone with Adam right now. So,
yeah. Please catch up to her. Tell her we said hi.
All right. I'll tell her
we
that
apologize.
DTP and ELS apologize, and she just wasn't feeling good today. And
hey, you asked to be on here, so yeah, Liam.
Well,
yeah.
I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming
No.
you guys. I'm an adult. I made my own decision, but Liam was up, 2 or 3 times last night, and I'm not getting up to take care of him. That's her job. So she got up and had to, rock him back to sleep. So she didn't get a lot of sleep, and then so I'm not completely blaming her. I told her I was doing the podcast tonight, and I gave her forewarning, but I guess she thought it was going to be a 15-minute hit and not an hour and a half. So. All right,
you had a
fellas,
lot
it's
of
good
time
to
you had
hear
to get
your
out, so we
voices.
appreciate
Good
it.
to talk to you. I wish you
Absolutely.
all the best of luck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're always here. Just hit us up.
Yeah. All right, I will. It may be, might be another year. Could be 6 months. We never know. But stay healthy. Get the vaccine when you can, and be well. And I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, awesome. Soon,
Definitely.
hopefully.
Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag. You can follow him on Twitter at HowAboutIt91 and on Instagram, the second biggest example on Instagram at Jeff Moss DSR. So, Ed, why don't we get those Michigan Wolverines and UCLA Bruins game out of the way? So, Ed, of course, it was a defensive game thus far. UCLA had a good defense, but Michigan's shooting could have been at least a little bit better. But Ed, I'll just let you take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, what else needs to be said other than it was, while admittedly a great performance defensive-wise by UCLA, just a bad offensive night for Michigan. I thought there was a lot of chances that they got good, high-quality looks at. They just did not finish. A couple of times where they were at the rim, whether it be Dickinson or Johns, had a putback opportunity, did not go. The last 5 minutes where he seemed to be missing shot after shot after shot, let alone the last 2 possessions with Wagner getting the open look, he airballs, then Eli Brooks, who had been brilliant for the entire run, he just completely whiffed on the putback opportunity. And we had a little bit back and forth in the chat about what Juwan Howard could have or should have done. I will argue that was the best look they could have gotten, considering the fact that UCLA was going to clog the paint no matter what to defend the lob, whether it be the Dickinson to someone else, and also the fact it's 0.5 seconds. There's nothing much you can do with less than a second left on the clock other than a catch and shoot.
And I saw the highlight finally. Wagner shooting from 3-point range. Wow, that's hard to do.
Yeah, and
it could have been Dickinson in the post.
Or if you want to do a criticism, maybe run that play for Sean D. Brown instead. But again,
there you go. Anyone, yes, in the post.
No, not the post, because you didn't. You wouldn't. It would have been. Trust me, it would have been taking more time to get that out rather than the catch and shoot on the wing. So in terms of what you see, yeah, it would have taken way more time to do it, because again, 0.5 seconds left. You're pretty much limited. If you had a second or two left, you could have done something similar, but. That was the best look that was presented to them. They took the best opportunity, and it just went off the rim, or off the back rim. Usually in a game like this or situations like that, that's the ebbs and flows. Sometimes you get a miracle occurrence where we saw the Trey Burke shot or the Jordan Poole shot, which I would argue was way more difficult than what Wagner had to go through. And then sometimes you deal with this. It happens. But despite the obvious disappointing end, I still think that this team has something to have their heads held high about, considering the fact that they did win a regular season Big Ten title. They did represent the conference to the best of their ability, despite the fact that they, amongst everyone else, went through the circumstances they had to go through, had to take a literal 3-week pause in the middle of the season, and still came back and looked like one of the best teams in the nation. Unfortunately, it came down to the fact that at the end of it all, in a win or go home situation, sudden death format such as this, it can come down to a bad game or one possession, as we saw here at the end of the game, and also not making free throws. So there are still things that this team can work on,
especially free throw shooting.
Yeah, that's still not a finished product yet, but there's still, I think, all in all, there were some things to look forward at a positive light, even though the end result was disappointing.
Yeah, and Dan Rabe at Infield Fly 86 tweeted 49 points. You saw his tweets about, it's just a shooting accuracy problem for the Michigan Wolverines. But there was one player that shot 4 for 5. I thought it was Eli Brooks or something like that. But
Brooks had good moments. But again, it was. I think we're talking about the whiff he had at the end. But before that, he had a tremendous game. Frankly, he had a great tournament. Coach Martelli was right when he said he was the MVP or the most important player of this team for a reason. Because when you needed a bucket or everything else wasn't going so smoothly, Eli Brooks is right there.
Yep. True. And Michigan still had a good run to the Elite Eight despite not having Isaiah Livers there.
Exactly. That's another reason. You can play now. I'm not going to play that game, but oh man, what would have happened if you had Livers? Because guess what? You still got to play with the roster that you have. There's other teams that were missing. I'm sure missing their best players as well, whether it be the injury, COVID, or whatever. So you can't use that as an excuse. But it's something to look upon and say, hey, if we had this, things could have been different of what our potential could have been. So when you factor that in and knowing that the incoming recruiting class that Juwan Howard is going to have, which I think is probably the best they've had since 2012 or 2013, it raises expectations, but it's reasonable expectations as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. And how many of their players are going to return, and how many are going to graduate?
Oh, well, we know Isaiah Livers, he's a senior. Dickinson would be the one key player to look at. I don't know if he's going to be a one and done or if he's going to come back for another year.
He was a freshman, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a freshman player, Big Ten freshman of the year. Wagner, I always remember reading or seeing reports about him being projected as a potential lotto pick. Obviously, what we've seen in this tournament, especially in this last game, I don't think he's quite ready for that yet. I wouldn't mind it if he came back for another season or so. Mike Smith was a grad transfer, so he's not coming back anyway. I think Eli Brooks was a senior as well, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So you may be missing a couple of pieces, but again, what you're gaining in return with your upcoming recruiting class should be a balance, a wash, if you will.
Yeah, and Juwan Howard's going to have some coaching to do next off season. this upcoming off season, of course, before next season tips off.
Yeah, and there's also the chance that some on the coaching staff, whether it be Coach Martelli or Coach Washington or whoever, they may get offers to go coach somewhere else. There's always a possibility of that. It's the same thing what happened when Coach Yaklich left once Juwan Howard came in. He left for Texas.
Yep. All right. So the Tigers, before we sign off, the Tigers home against the Cleveland Indians, like I've mentioned before. I believe Matt Boyd, as I remember, gonna get the nod at Comerica Park tomorrow at 1:10 when the Tigers play the Cleveland Indians. Matt Boyd is going to go up against Shane Bieber. So looking at the Viget app, as I pull it up here, the Tigers and Indians. And yes, Viget is our sponsor for our show and other shows on Stables Media. The betting. The Indians are favored by 1.5. The over is like 7.5 runs. The over under is 7.5 runs. The money line is 100 negative. Yep. At negative 186 for Cleveland, plus 169 for Detroit. So that's as of right now for tomorrow. So yeah, get your picks in with the Viget app. If you haven't signed up with the account yet, please do so. But make sure to use that referral code STABLES with a capital S and the lowercase letter B. And that is a sponsor for our show and other shows on Stables Media. And that is our closing for tonight. Ed, excellent job as always. Special thanks to Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag. Again, follow him on Twitter at HowAboutIt91. And we'll be back next week. Hopefully Frank Vazner returns with us as well. So until then, for Ed Smith, this is Taylor Phillips signing off. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DT2Phillips, and follow Ed Smith on Twitter and Instagram at EdSmith313. Thanks very much for listening, downloading, and sharing. And remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Power to the people. Hit them with a high, and we rest our